Welcome to the Thinking Crypto podcast, your home for cryptocurrency news and interviews. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button and leave a comment below. If you're listening on a podcast platform such as Spotify or Apple, please leave a 5-star rating and review. It supports the podcast and it doesn't cost you anything. Well, folks, Bitcoin continues to pump. It's over $52,000. It is up near 17% from a 7-day perspective, over 5% from a 24-hour perspective. Ethereum and alts also looking very strong. Ethereum crossed $2,800 today. It's currently at $2,788. Solana at $117. We're seeing some green here, folks, but as I've been stating, I'm cautiously optimistic. It's not that I'm not happy to see prices going up. I am happy. Anytime the price is going up, I'm happy. But I've been here for multiple bull market and bear market cycles, and based on the timing of where we are in the market, I believe this rally is not going to new highs, as some would say. I think it's going to pull back. Now, I will happily be wrong, because I'm here to make money, folks. So I'm forming my thesis based on my experience, based on what the charts are saying. So why is Bitcoin's price going up? I think it's a bit of a short squeeze. We had the buy the rumor, sell the news event for the Bitcoin spot ETFs. And like many folks were stating, we could see a sell-off and then people starting opening up shorts, and then Bitcoin had gotten rejected from a certain price point, but then it broke through it after the rejection. So shorts were opened up, and I think we're seeing a bit of a short squeeze here, a lot of liquidations of shorts over the past 24 hours. Now, I've stated to you guys, I'm not shorting. I am a hodler. I am buying the dips and holding, and I do some swing trading, but I don't do any leverage trading or shorting or things like that. So the people who are trying to short, they're getting wrecked, right? While like you, I'm holding for new highs to take profits. But what will Bitcoin do? Could it go to 60K? It's possible, right? But I'm still cautiously optimistic, waiting to see what happens. I am of the mindset right now, let this rally play out and we'll go from there. But nevertheless, guys, I'm bullish long-term. I'm bullish from a macro perspective. Now, something that could drive sell pressure is we got news here that Genesis gets court approval to offload $1.6 billion of Grayscale shares. We know Grayscale has been selling. However, that selling has ramped down significantly. But the lawyer for Genesis put the value of the Grayscale shares around $1.6 billion. And this was granted today by the judge. So that selling could start soon or maybe later this year. I'm just letting you know the facts and the news that are being reported. So we'll see what happens. And look, if you're a long-term holder, no problem. These things don't matter, right? But what I am looking for and why I'm paying attention to this, I just don't want people to buy into these pumps and then get wrecked. That's number one. Second, when Bitcoin moves up, right, the liquidity will flow from Bitcoin down to the altcoins. And we're going to see a mini alt season. I'm waiting for XRP to pop off and other tokens, Ethereum as well. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking to take some profits on some of these alts. I'm not selling my entire bag. I'm just selling some, and I will buy the dips as we continue to run up and sell at the blow off top. That is my strategy. Obviously do your own research and formulate your own strategy and what works best for you financially. Now let's jump into the news. Scumbag regulator Gary Gensler today went on CNBC. This was very surprising. He hasn't done any media appearances since the Grayscale defeat, since him and the SEC have lost, and even when the judge in the debt box situation threatened to sanction the lawyers. He's been quiet, right? There's been tweets, but he's been quiet. And of course, there was the whole mess and debacle that took place with the Bitcoin ETF launch. So he's either coming on here to save some face after all these things that happened, or he's taking his order, some Elizabeth Warren, to go on here and speak negatively. And of course, he did speak negatively about crypto. Here's some quotes, and I'm sure many of you saw the clips. This is a field that's being rife with fraud and manipulation. Look at all the bankruptcies. He says it's not just one entity. It's entity after entity lining up in bankruptcy court. But of course, the hosts, Andrew Sorkin and Becky Quick and even Joe Kernan did not do their journalistic job here. Joe did push back on Gary a lot, but why didn't they bring up that Gary Gensler was meeting with Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX? And he did not stop FTX. He did not do his job and investigate what was happening. Remember that Patrick McHenry threatened to sanction Gary Gensler because he would not hand over the FTX documents. You want to know why he hasn't handed those things over? Because of all the meetings and all the backroom deals that were about to take place with FTX, who were going to get the special broker dealer license, which Prometheum got. But of course, these hosts are not going to do their job and bring these things up. They're not going to bring up that these collapses and bankruptcies happened under Gary's watch. Gary did not investigate Celsius, right? Now he's attacking the crypto industry. He's attacking good actors. And of course, he's losing in court. But why was he not investigating the bad actors during the, those period in time when they were operating? He did not do his job. Folks, it's amazing that these journalists would just let this man go on here and say these things. But once again, Joe Kernan did do a good job in pushing back on some of the lies that Gary Gensler was trying to put out there. But it was surprising that he showed up here on CNBC. And folks, speaking of the SEC, Debtbox challenges the SEC's attempt to dismiss the crypto case. So as you know, and I just mentioned, the judge threatened to sanction the SEC lawyers for lying to the court. And Debtbox is rightfully saying, hey, we're not going to let you get away with this, right? And I hope this judge does sanction the SEC, folks. This would be another black mark on Gary Gensler. So Debtbox is asking a federal judge to deny the SEC's recent motion to dismiss its case against the cryptocurrency project. The company argued that the federal agency is attempting to cover up gross misconduct, the SEC last month, in response to sanctions threats after alleged violations, asked the court to dismiss the case without prejudice. If granted, that would leave the door open for the agency to refile charges against the defendants down the line. After suing Digital Licensing Inc., which operates under the name Debtbox, in August 2023, SEC attorneys were granted temporary restraining order against defendants after making what Judge Robert Shelby later described as misleading statements to the court. When threatened with sanctions by the court, the SEC conceded that its attorneys should have been more forthcoming with the court, but maintained that sanctions are not appropriate or necessary to address these issues or those issues. The agency suggested the only reprimand from the court to grant its motion to dismiss without prejudice. The SEC wants to exit this action under its own terms while retaining the option to refile other enforcement action against the Debtbox defendants and other defendants at some undetermined time in the future, and perhaps in a different form, as if nothing happened in this case, Debtbox attorneys wrote in their opposition motion filed Wednesday. So the SEC clearly not abiding by the laws. They're hypocrites, they're liars. That's why Judge Sarah Netburn in the Ripple case said the SEC lacked faithful allegiance to the law. Folks, I'm not making these statements up. These are the statements coming from the judges in the judicial branch of the courts, right? They call the SEC arbitrary and capricious for how they handle the grayscale Bitcoin spot ETF situation. It's unbelievable. But of course, like I said, folks, Gary was on TV today. No pushback, no challenges, no bringing up of these facts. And it's pathetic. But this is why we got to use social media, use YouTube, use Twitter X and whatever else to create content and get the news out there, because these people are just going to kiss Gary's butt. But the great thing, folks, is that the courts are handing Gary losses. They're keeping him in check. And that's the great thing, the checks and balances of the government. Now, Gary Gensler, as we know, is a puppet on strings controlled by Elizabeth Warren, who's of course controlled by the TradFi banking incumbents. And what's fascinating is attorney John Deaton, who of course has been fighting for XRP users for years. Without him, I don't think Ripple would have gotten a partial victory. And something interesting is brewing here. It looks like he's going to run against Elizabeth Warren. Wow. Eleanor Tarrant highlighted the following from an article. John Deaton, a Swansea attorney who has been a prominent advocate for cryptocurrency, is seriously considering running as a Republican in this year's U.S. Senate race against Democrat Elizabeth Warren, according to two GOP insiders with direct knowledge of his plans. That's great. I love it. And, we got to support John as he does this, folks. We'll have to come together. He's pro-crypto, and he knows that Elizabeth Warren is corrupt to her bones. So we got to get her out of office. Now, Congressman Tom Emmer today did something really great. There was a hearing and he called out the Wall Street Journal fake numbers, if you all recall, about, Hamas using digital assets for fundraising and, bad actors using digital assets. We know the number is very small. We know that primarily they use cash because it's not very traceable. Look, a lot of crimes throughout history has been, cash has been used. That doesn't mean cash inherently is bad. It's just there's bad actors in society, right? That's just life. But we know Elizabeth Warren, Gary Gensler, and so forth want to paint crypto in a bad light. And they're trying to make it look as though Hamas is only using crypto and all these people are only using crypto when it's absolutely false. So Tom Emmer tweeted out a video and he also stated the following. Today, I asked Treasury's head of FinCEN and OFAC about the Wall Street Journal's reporting on Hamas digital asset fundraising campaign. Undersecretary Nelson confirmed on the record that the Wall Street Journal's numbers are inaccurate and that crypto was not a popular tool for Hamas terrorists. What now, Elizabeth Warren? Do you think Elizabeth Warren is going to retract anything? Do you think the Wall Street Journal is going to retract anything? Nope, because they're liars. They have an agenda. They have a campaign. And but this is why we have pro crypto folks who are pushing for the facts. This is why we have to retweet and share this data to disarm the clowns that are Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler. He says senators are writing legislation based on the Wall Street Journal's inaccurate reporting. Since Treasury has accurate data, it has an obligation to correct the record on the size of Hamas's digital asset fundraising efforts. So this will completely disarm Elizabeth Warren on this issue, but this is why we got to fight. See, if we just let these things go and she keeps going, it's going to cause problems, right? And we have different crypto bills in the House. We have members of the Senate and Congress who are not fully educated on crypto. They will listen to Elizabeth Warren, unfortunately. So we have to drum up as much noise and share the facts. So shout out to Tom Emmer for doing this. And it's on record. And the Treasury, hopefully they release the information. But we got someone from the Treasury saying, yeah, that's not true. So this is really great. All right, folks, big news coming out from Citibank. I've talked for years that banks, stock exchanges, and the biggest investment firms in the world will all be involved in crypto. They will offer crypto trading custody and will build with the technology. Citibank tests tokenization of private equity funds on Avalanche, the Avalanche blockchain with the native token of Avax. Now, earlier today, I published my interview with John Wu of Ava Labs, which is the foundation that works on the Avalanche blockchain. Folks, we talk about JP Morgan using Avalanche for tokenization. And of course, the news broke today of Citibank doing the same. It's a great blockchain. They're looking to scale to 100,000 transactions per second. They're partnering with Amazon Web Services. They're doing big things, folks. So I highly recommend you check them out. I am an Avax token holder in full transparency, not financial advice. Do your own research, but they're getting clear real world adoption, people tokenizing, building on these blockchains. And I've often talked about, look at the blockchains that are getting real world adoption, have real use cases, solving real world problems. This is a big endorsement of Avalanche. And let me give you some details here of what Citibank is doing. So Citibank used Layer 1 blockchain Avalanche's Spruce subnet to explore the tokenization of private equity funds to re-architect capital markets. Citi worked with traditional finance giants WisdomTree and Wellington Management to carry out its proof of concept trial that was issued on Avalanche's Spruce. According to a press release, Spruce is an evergreen subnet designed for large financial institutions looking to use public blockchain infrastructure. So folks, same thing that JP Morgan's doing. So once again, if you want to learn more about this, check out my interview with John Wu from earlier today. Citi joining the subnet is the latest bet from a Wall Street giant looking to dive further into the use cases of blockchain adoption. TradFi firms such as T. Rowe Price, WisdomTree, Wellington Management, and Cumberland joined the subnet in April last year to make trade execution and settlements more efficient. Here's a quote. The growing use of Avalanche by leading financial services firms like Citi, Wellington, WisdomTree, and DTCC Digital Assets continues to cement Avalanche as an institutional blockchain leader, said Morgan Kropetsky, if I'm saying that right, Senior Director of Business Development Institutions and Capital Markets at Ava Labs, in a conversation with CoinDesk. Folks, this is huge. The biggest banks and firms in the world are building with blockchains, and you get to participate. Don't miss how insanely crazy that is. And not only that, you front ran them. You can be a holder of the native token of Avalanche, which is Avax. I'm not telling you to invest in it. I'm just giving an example. And you can benefit in the network growing with banks building on it and whatever else is happening on that blockchain, right? Metcalfe's law. The more participants on the network, the stronger it becomes, the more valuable it becomes. And of course, that value trickles down to the native token, which is needed for the blockchain to function. And there's never been anything like this in the history of the world. It's amazing. I hope you guys catch what is taking place right before your eyes. The token that you're holding for a said blockchain, major institutions are building on it. It's amazing what's taking place. All right, let's move ahead. Matt Hogan of Bitwise shared today that their ETF has crossed $1 billion. And he also highlighted that Bitcoin crossed $1 trillion again today. Really great news for Matt. I've had him on the podcast many times. I'm a big fan of Bitwise and all the great things they're doing. They were the first to provide their wallet addresses where they show their Bitcoin holdings in the ETF, which I think should be the standard for every ETF issuer. And I hope the other issuers follow through. And they made an announcement today. They said today the Bitwise Bitcoin ETFs, Bitcoin addresses at Coinbase custody, the qualified custodian of BitBees, that's the ticker holdings, have been upgraded from P2PKH to native SegWit P2WPKH. Oof, let's try to say that 10 times fast. But guys, I love it. This is great. I love the transparency. Once again, I think we should all email or call up all these other issuers, right? Like Fidelity and BlackRock, show the wallet addresses so we can verify it. This is why blockchains and crypto exist, for this transparency. And if you hold the funds you said you hold, then what's the problem, right? Just show what's in the wallet address. Then no problem with that. Now, update here from Brett Harrison, who I've had on the podcast. He was actually at FTX, but he left long before, all the madness took place. I think he sniffed out that things were not going right at FTX, so he left early. He's a great guy, and he's the founder and CEO of Architect, which does some great financial technology solutions for crypto trading firms and so forth. He says they've completed a $12 million investment round led by Block Tower Capital, Tioga Capital. It looks like Anthony Scaramucci's Salt Fund is in here, and Parify Capital. So they're raising money, and I've often stated now's the time if you're an innovator or entrepreneur to go raise capital and build out your project, folks. You can get funding, I think, pretty easy and build out your project. So I'm going to try to get Brett on to talk about this and what they're building at Architect and how companies in the crypto industry are going to use it. All right, folks, that's the news. Please subscribe to my free newsletter. Link will be in the description. Also follow me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, LinkedIn, folks. It supports the podcast. It doesn't take $1 out of your pocket. It's all free stuff. Please support, please follow, please like, please subscribe. It really, really helps. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you all later.